what's so unusual about flying in a helicopter, there are 4 aerodynamic effects that take place in an airplane: lift, thrust, drag, and weight. With a helicopter, there's almost 20 aerodynamic forces that take place. That's what makes them so unusual to fly and so difficult to manage in the air, but they're really very versatile and maneuverable. When I was flying in Katrina during the operation down there, the hurricane rescue work, we found that helicopters were the only answer to be able to go into the places that we had to go. And it's the same way with so many military operations. Can you imagine being 18 years old in Vietnam, going into combat your first time, and feeling the thrust of the aircraft? They didn't have seats or seat belts. They sat on the floor. And that's what was so interesting about it. Even today, when the troops are being combat assaulted, the same feeling that they get, the thrill of all of this action out here. Earlier, the aircraft is an age 1 F model Cobra, the latest Cobra that flew on active duty. The reason this aircraft's not flying on active duty now is because it was basically an analog aircraft created in Vietnam, updated through the Cold War, actually fought in Desert Storm, but it had a successor on board. It was the Army bought a digital aircraft, essentially the Apache, which is fighting the war today. This aircraft is still a very viable fighting machine around the world. In fact, I just took 12 of them to Pakistan, to our allies over there, to help them fight the war on terrorism. So it's still a well-respected aircraft around the world from that standpoint, and it has always been a formidable fighting aircraft. You can see by the thin profiles we walk around, the aircraft was developed so that its thin profile from a frontal view was one, hard to engage, and 2, very difficult to detect. So if you can imagine this 30-inch wide profile in that tree line across the way or behind, just peeking through some trees, it'd be very difficult to see, and especially when it was painted in the camouflage dark non-reflective paint, unlike the paint that we've got on them today as show material. But starting from the front, there was capability from the sighting system in the front to launch anti-tank missiles. The 20-millimeter cannon in the front fired penetrating rounds that could penetrate up to 6 inches of homogeneous armor. And then it had rockets, 2.75 rockets on the side, which were basically aerial artillery. So it gave a weapons platform for some very formidable weapons. The training of the pilots allowed them to not only identify, but to engage the type of targets that they were required to do. Unlike many aircraft or jet aircraft where the pilot sits in the front for visibility, here the co-pilot gunner sits in the front seat, and that provides him the capability to operate the gun systems. The working end of the aircraft is the front where the gunner station stays. Now the gunner, as we mentioned a minute ago, has complete visibility, and the two communicate back and forth. Both seats can fire everything except the back seat cannot fire the tow missiles. Our blade tips are going essentially the speed of sound and are only just a few feet apart, which makes the training and the dynamics of the team even that much more impressive. We trust each other, we trust the training of each other, and we'd have to be that close to each other doing what we do. Unlike a fixed-wing aircraft, which can bump and survive, if we bump, we pulverize. Powered by a single turbine engine, which is exciting, puts out 1,800 shaft horsepower. To those blades that you see up there are 30 inches wide. And so all of that drives through. These special systems we put on the side are smoke systems, won't be found on an active duty bird. In fact, we had them developed specifically for the team, they weren't cheap. But they actually provide smoke on both sides of the aircraft, which joins behind the aircraft and spirals in our flight, which is very exciting and very interesting to watch. The proof of the pudding is the other major teams, the Thunderbirds and Blue Angels, have both commented on the dynamics of our show and how much they respect what we do with the aircraft that we're doing it with. And the fact that we're veterans and the fact that we are donating our time really does make us unique.